I just don't know why this administration seems to feel the need to coddle autocrats and dictators, from Putin to Kim Jong-un to, Duarte. I mean, I don't understand it.
Hey, welcome back to Keeping It 1492. Who was that?
That was a full coherent sentence from Joe Biden.
Oh.
When was that recent?
That was this morning.
Was he giving finger guns when he was saying it?
Yeah, I actually watched. He wasn't. I was just more impressed that Joe Biden, as senile as he is, had like a 3 minutes where he was like focused and it was like clarity just came over him.
Well, the whole thing with that's going on with Saudi Arabia right now is mostly because they pump a lot of they give us a lot of money and then we get oil from them, and they fucking chopped up a dude and put him in suitcases and like most likely put him in like a vat of acid.
Look.
And they also had a fresh coat of paint in the entire embassy.
No.
Oh, did they?
They repainted the whole thing. When the Turkish investigators came in, they said it smelled like brand new paint.
They
Of course they're gonna have all those things to try to cover it up. But look, President Trump has asked the prince, the Saudi prince, if he did it, and what did he said no.
He said it wasn't me.
No, he didn't do it.
It wasn't me.
What are you gonna do? Are you gonna look at all the evidence, or are you gonna look right at the mouth of the guy that supposedly did it? He said he didn't do it.
But they caught him on camera.
Wasn't me. So the guy was an American citizen, correct?
He was a permanent resident. Technically, you're not an American. Like, someone that lives here all the time but can't vote and stuff is a permanent resident.
So I stopped commenting on stuff. I told you that was my kind of new thing.
Recall the last episode.
Even though I still like, I will put a few beers in me and then I'll get all like Superman, be like, "Fuck you!" But someone was like, he doesn't pay taxes. He's not American. Why should we care? Blah blah blah. Okay, all right.
You didn't comment?
No,
I just showed restraint.
Like, Jesus, because anything. This president can completely reverse his policy, and they would still be supportive of him, which would be awesome if he did.
That's interesting, though. Yeah, it's like maybe that's his long game. He's gonna turn us into a socialist country, and everyone's gonna be like, "Yeah, he's still okay."
I don't think there's a long-term plan.
Well, did you hear?
Day-to-day.
So the new Republican goal is they have more tax cuts, higher than the ones that were.
Yeah, they keep them rolling, and they especially do more tax cuts when all your attention's on like Kavanaugh, all your attention's on whatever the big media thing is that week. That's when they secretly pass even more tax cuts to the rich.
Well, it's been known, and I think we talked about it, but they're pushing through $3.5 billion or $1 trillion of tax cuts for the rich. Right now, their argument is kind of going to be against social programs. So, Medicare and Social Security, we need to cut back that. That's insane. Like, are his supporters still going to fucking go with that?
Yeah, they will, because they're brainwashed to think that everyone in America is brainwashed to think that it's the people in the rung below them that's the problem, not looking at the people at the very top who are the real leeches taking all
the table
money.
of nine, the Council of Nine.
Look, the Council of Nine.
I actually saw a good graph from the Communist News Network that showed this is the first time in our history where unemployment's this low and we're incurring more debt. Because the last two times unemployment was this low was they were both surpluses.
And meanwhile, Wall Street's doing
done.
great.
That's
sorry.
rude.
Go ahead.
The last time this happened was Bill Clinton, and before that, it was in the 60s with the Democratic president as well.
Well,
last two times we had unemployment this low, it was Democrats, and we had a surplus. Crazy idea. This is the first time we've had unemployment this low and are incurring more and more debt.
So my biggest fear,
boom, I'm done.
And it's gonna be the same thing that happened under Bush, is that we're gonna rack up all this debt. If not, it's gonna be super more extreme than it was before, and then they're gonna elect a Democrat as president. But they're not.
Hillary.
Trump most likely is going to win the next election. That's where I'm thinking right now.
I want to say he won't, but that's just the hope in me, and anything can happen. So,
You're both very
I think
pessimistic.
I would agree with you.
It's going to be the same thing. He's going to lose a popular vote. And
the Democratic Party is going to be very split again.
The Democrats have had time. Here's one thing. You can't push what happened with Elizabeth Warren with the whole taking a DNA test to prove that she's somewhat Native American was probably the dumbest thing she could have done, because she's like 1/5 Native American or something like. Really,
it's still 20%. I mean, it's not like it's
right,
like you're 1/25 something.
But the Cherokee Nation was like, stop using us for political purpose, And we can't have Biden's 76, Bernie's 78.
Did you just hear Joe Biden on that clip? He sounds pretty with it. And he didn't try to grab any butts.
But Joe Biden, I don't know if he just said it to, just say it, but he said he's not going to
really
run
during the podcast.
I'm sorry.
What do you think this is? BBC4's philosophy podcast?
I haven't listened to them in a while. I got to see what they've been doing.
They probably got locked in the basement and the batteries died on all their equipment.
I miss that like sniveling old guy. It's like, yes, tell me about Chaucer's. I don't know.
You're really bad with like British accents.
I am.
Scottish, British, Irish. You're just terrible at it.
I've been listening to NPR.
I need to use practice.
I wish I had like an NPR parent like, no, Josh, you really did something you shouldn't have done, so you should go to your room and think about what you did, and you're grounded for 2 weeks. But don't worry, there's dinner on the table for you later. Thanks, NPR parents.
Even their DJs have like no life. It's like this is David Dye. Here is a pretty wild song by the Kinks. Here is You Really Got Me Now.
Why is it so monotone?
Everything they do, they don't have any like Alex Jones.
Well, it's unbiased through and through.
I miss like the old DJs. Like I've got some old records that have like DJs from like the 50s and 60s, and they really were like, oh right, Boston's finest, and they do their own commercials too. It's like, when you're using Norelco's electric razor, your beard will be gone. And they were just magic. I don't know how they did it all.
Different times, different era.
It's still these past few years since Trump has taken office have been fucking crazy, and the weirdest thing is
weirdly erotic.
Not erotic, far from it. I always think that there's going to be a point when there's just the news calms. It's just a calm, but there's never been a calm. I don't know if it's because most of the news like kind of builds up what Trump is doing.
The news is making a ton of money off of it. I was just telling Tom before the show, like, when the news was on, because CNN's playing Beto O'Rourke's town hall debate with Ted Cruz.
Who is
Beto?
Who's airing it?
The Communist News Network.
Thank you.
But think about it though, like when would it be on like national news during like Obama's presidency? You're not going to see like some random senator from some faraway state. They wouldn't really like just put that up. But since Ted Cruz is this like new character now in this like pantheon of media clowns.
Well, they say he has a 7-point Bush. All right. So they say he has a 7-point lead. I don't really believe it because Ted Cruz is very unlikable. But he's definitely pandering to the very conservative crowd of Texas. But you got to think Beto O'Rourke is focusing a lot. You got to focus on Austin, Dallas, Houston, kind of big metropolis.
The center cities, yeah. I mean, even a state like Texas, those cities would be, and any city is going blue. So
are you sure? Even San Antonio, even El Paso, even.
I mean, I would say they have more red than we have here in like eastern cities, but cities are just progressive places where people realize they need social programs.
In Trump's mind, when he looks at the map, he was like, "Well, look how red it is. look how many more states I got. Look how red it is compared to all the blue. Like, well,
but
no people
third of the
live there.
population lives in all those red.
right. But they still hold the same weight as the other states.
Did you see his comments? He was saying that if the Republicans lose the midterm election, it's not his fault.
Right. Yeah.
And he doesn't need to campaign for them because it's not his fault if they lose.
He just campaigns for himself.
I'm shocked though there hasn't been any people who have stood up and said no to him, or just kind of gone with their heart. And it's really just it goes to show it's just like it's party over country.
What do you mean? Like people that have quit? Because didn't that Jeff Flake guy quit because of Trump's politics?
Well, Paul Ryan's also leaving, and he's very young. But
so
why?
I guess I didn't hear your first part. I thought people are quitting because of him.
No, like why? Even though he's quitting, he never
not as many as you'd think.
Right, he never did anything to say no to what's going on.
Why would you turn down all the government paychecks and all the
you're gonna get
kickbacks?
So the second you're elected a government official, you're still getting some fucking pension, and then when you retire, you got health benefits. That's why they also don't care about any like Medicare or anything, because they're not going to fucking.
It's a cushy job.
They have the 1% healthcare that covers everything and anything because it's federal healthcare.
Right, and how many millionaires are in our Senate?
I think most of them are millionaires,
and that doesn't represent the people at all.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm like anarchist. I feel like these bureaucrats don't do anything; they just create more work just by themselves existing. And they don't have the people's interests in mind. They have whoever is paying them in mind, which is often corporations, stuff in their pockets. But I wanted to bring up...
fun thing.
There's been talk...
I got 2015. The majority of members of Congress are millionaires, 271 of 533 members, or 50.8% as of January 15. So assume that's probably went up a bit. It's more than half. I mean, it's... 1 out of 2. I thought it was going to be higher.
I thought it was going to be higher too, but I mean, the rest have to be.
They're close, probably.
Pretty wealthy,
yeah. And only 1%. That's why that whole 1%. 1% of America is actually millionaires.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the 1% is they control vast amounts of wealth, and then it's like the next 20% down control like another vast amount of wealth.
What
People
happens?
On the bottom have hardly any.
Hypothetically, if they have this Mega Millions jackpot that is now $970 million, if we win it, we get half of that, right? So here's one idea that we should all buy a ticket. Second idea is that we should run together for president. Actually, no, I can't because I'm not 35. Which is another fucking silly
fun
idea.
Story. There's actually 123 members of Congress. Again, this is around the same time they have a negative net worth. One guy, Representative David Valado from Republican of California, had negative $17.5 million due to debts and loans from his dairy business. So there are some incredibly poor senators too, and House of Representatives.
Yeah, but if
that's also how they file their taxes.
Yeah, if you
incur a debt,
if you're millions of dollars in debt, then you're still rich. It's like a fucking weird
There's
thing.
things like dairy farmers are helping the greater good, so they really shouldn't.
But as far as normal people, only 49 of them had a net worth from 0 to 100K. So if we're calling that normal, only 49 out of 530.
I want to bring up, there's been talk mostly on the right side of things, the right wing, that America's headed into a next civil war.
Because of the Republicans. I also think we're headed into another fucking financial crisis.
I think that too. I was going to bring that up earlier, but what scares me about this Civil War talk is it plays into this right-wing idea that's going on right now where they are the ones at the top in power. I think I brought this up before, but they're the ones in power, white, rich men. But they're able to spin any resistance that the left does, they say is violent, even if it's just verbal, and they spin it as they're the victims now. Like, whoa, like we're under attack here by Antifa, by the far left. So they're really like spurring on this idea that there's these like communists and anarchists ready to take guns up against them. But who are the people that actually have the guns? Who are the people that are actually preparing for this shit to happen? It's not the people on the left.
You know, I would
far.
love to see not saying I would love it, but in all honesty, if a fucking civil war happened, please take the Republican base and please take the left base. Like, I don't know if I'm generalizing here, but I'm thinking
probably.
A majority. Yeah, I probably am. But a lot of they have little to no education. They're very unhealthy. They're just kind of an overall like buffoon person.
Well, look, if you're looking where the right gets their votes from, perhaps, but there's a lot of the people in control are just rich people voting right. They're the people getting the tax cuts,
and they're dying soon. What's going to happen with that money?
Not all of them. I mean, I've got like
their kids get it, and the cycle repeats.
My dad's cousin is, you know, a little bit younger than him. He's rich accountant, Republican. He's actually losing money because of Trump's new tax policy. So he's going to move to North Carolina. He still supports Trump. He still supports Republicans.
Even though the latest news indicates that global warming is going to truly affect us in 10 years.
Not real. Fake news.
And so, you know, it's funny, though, because you remember how my leftist propaganda that I was speaking about, people moving up here, there was a news article I read today about it, and they were basically saying the next big crisis is going to be the water crisis, which I was talking about. And then I was like looking into it, and there was like a Harvard professor who, well, they listed the top 5 places that you should live that really global warming is not going to affect. And number 4 on the list was Buffalo, New York.
Really?
Yeah.
The place no one wants to live.
Right. But what's going to happen is we're going to... So
why Buffalo?
Here's another idea.
Because of 2 bodies of water?
Fresh
like right
water.
there?
Because water, 20% of the water in this world, the fresh water, is from the Great Lakes.
I know the numbers.
So you're going to want to be near water. We have lots of open land. Another thing. So we are going to witness in our time a mass migration. And if there was a way like that, if we wanted to get rich, if we had enough money, it would probably be investing in land, holding on to it, and then selling it.
So in the next 5 years, there's going to be a bunch of land barons buying up all the land in Western New York.
I wouldn't, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, but like I'm surprised.
There's already land barons buying up land in Canada that is, you know, under snow, frozen now. That
Fertile Crescent.
Yeah, they think will turn into farmland.
Really?
Yeah. It's been like that for like the last 10 years. Businesses aren't trying to curb global warming. They're trying to invest in a future of global warming.
Why do they continue to invest in plants that are in areas that are going to be inhabitable? Like Phoenix is going to be a fucking desert.
Because businesses...
Isn't it already a desert?
It pretty much is, yeah. It's going to, but if you think about it, it's going to be almost 120 degrees Fahrenheit eventually.
It's already like 100 every day.
Yeah, but there's no humidity.
I thought there's lots of humidity.
No.
The girl I worked with, she moved out there and she told me it was really humid all the time.
In Arizona?
Yeah.
Because I've been to Vegas and it's like you're in an oven, you don't even sweat. Because it's like the sweat gets to the point where it like will start to bead up on your skin, but then it doesn't leave your skin.
Did you like Vegas?
You know, I went when I was 18. I did like it. It was definitely a change in scenery. I don't think I could live there. Going back in early January, so.
Ooh.
I would love to go to Vegas.
As
I
a
have some
grown-up.
friends
I think it's definitely worth seeing while it's still habitable.
Yeah, that's honestly that's a city that should not exist, right? And then that's why they're moving the Raiders.
Well, it's funny because
the Bills are soon to be the biggest team in New York.
It was really booming. Like my uncles moved there when everyone was moving there, and Vegas was changing its image from like we're not like
run by the mob.
We're not run by the mob. We're not just this like party town where you go get wasted, cheat on your significant other. It's now they're like you can bring your family here and like have them go to school and shit.
Yeah,
There's actually a lot of teaching jobs my uncles are trying to get me check out.
Isn't Bryce Harper from Las Vegas?
Yes.
Best hitter in baseball came from Las Vegas.
He's not the best
They just
hitter.
they got that hockey team.
The Knights.
The Knights. My uncle, he's not a sports fan at all, but he was like, I still have like a Knights bag, and he said like because after the Vegas shooting, like that became like everyone's like that lives in Vegas, that was like their rallying thing. It's like our hockey team that's brand new is actually doing really well.
Yeah, they got to the hockey finals.
So that
they?
was like a way to unite
their
the
first
city.
year.
So that was pretty cool.
I was like, oh, the hockey finals.
The hockey thing. I don't
I don't understand hockey, man. I like playing the sports.
Hockey's lacrosse on ice. No one likes it.
Lacrosse on ice. Guess so.
Oh, and another cool thing that actually just happened is Ralph Wilson, when he died, the former owner of the Bills, donated $1.2 billion into a trust that this board of directors is supposed to donate within 20 years, right? $100 million is going to the Detroit waterfront, and $100 million is going to the Buffalo waterfront. That was actually announced on Tuesday.
Wow!
So how awesome!
I thought you were gonna say $100 million is going to the Detroit Lions.
No, So basically, the whole reason behind it was he wanted a place for kids to go to be active, and that his fond memories of growing up.
No, that is really cool. I mean, like Buffalo waterfront, even just winning the bid from the state, they built up their waterfront. I haven't really checked it out as much as I wanted to, but everyone just raves about it.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's very beautiful. Like I left. I went and saw Roger Waters, and I walked from the arena to my hotel, and just that it's a whole like district, which it's like cool. It's very, there's lots to do.
It's not better than Charlotte.
Few things could be better than Charlotte.
Charlotte's kind of sketchy.
I was born in Charlotte.
I went to.
Are you gonna die in Charlotte too?
I would.
I went to the Pelican's Nest.
Spread my ashes in the Genesee River.
Dude, it was like the Walmart of bars.
I went there once.
I went there before. My cousin JP, R.I.P., he died of cancer. He was like he was my mom's cousin. I wish I talked to him. He bartended at the Pelican's Nest all the time. And
I got a grapefruit beer in a plastic cup. It was delightful.
I remember John telling me someone he knew worked there, and I guess there was like mice around and everything. I mean, there's kind of mice in every restaurant. Let's face it.
Well, there shouldn't be.
It's right next to the water.
And that's an area we should build up. I guess they've been trying to, but
they tried with the fast ferry, which they should have just invested all that in like the waterfront rather than the boat. You know?
Yeah. And then focus on the boat after the waterfront.
Yeah. I think their problem was they went with one big boat when they should really just have like
a bunch of little boats,
a few
like
different
ferries.
little boats, because we actually did that in the 1800s. We used to have like a bunch of little ferries going across like, I don't know, like every day. Just like, hey, like I'm going to Canada if you want to rent this boat. And because I have this map of Hamlin, like a historical map. And there used to be ferries from Hamlin to Cobourg, which is like the town directly across from Hamlin in Canada. So it's like people would go like, oh, I'm going to go bed and breakfast in this little town in Canada.
How quaint.
But now weed is legal in Canada.
The biggest nation in the world to legalize weed.
By landmass or population?
Probably both.
So Tom, we're going to see some Blue Jays games. Blue Jays. We're going to smoke some Blue Jays.
Some Green Jays for the Blue Jays.
Yeah. It's cool, though. It's fucking cool. But, you know. Hey, I mean, on the... maybe we should move off from politics because it's fucking...
We just talked about boats to Canada and back.
That's cool, though.
Still political.
Is it?
In a way.
From 200 years ago?
I don't know. That was just
very apolitical, if you ask me.
What are all these Hamlin characters about? It's a bunch of farmland up there about.
What's a Hamlinite doing up here in Cobourg, eh?
Your Canadian accent is much better than your British accent.
It's funny, we're just across the lake.
I one time like cracked out on Google Maps, and I was just like, "What's across the lake?" Like, I was just looking at like what's in like directly across from Hamlin, across the lake, and they have these like beautiful Providence parks instead of state parks that are
because it's a Providence.
Yeah, that are just
so
they seem like so much nicer though, and like built up than ours. Like you look at these like small towns, it's all like independent restaurants and shit. Whereas you look at small towns here in the U.S., it's like, oh right, they just built a KFC in Rockport. And
well, so going back to my global warming theory is that Hamlin one day will be a luxury spot, almost a Canandaigua.
I'm joking with my parents that because we're like, I don't know, like 3 to 5 miles. I'm bad at that. I think we're like 5 miles from the lake, probably, maybe more. It's about like a 6-7 minute drive to the beach. So like if the beach does if the lake does overflow a little bit, maybe my parents' house will be lakefront.
Maybe.
Possibly.
There's also, and upon my research today, 1 quadrillion gallons of water in the Great Lakes.
Wow, that's one of those numbers like you never can even imagine that's real.
Right.
And it's just like there's a quadrillion gallons
of fresh water. So,
well, there is also the lake monster.
And yeah, the Hamlin Lake Monster.
No,
there's a lake monster.
It's actually been seen more in Canada by Seneca mythology.
Is it like a Loch Ness monster?
It's actually a blue serpent. It's a meteor dragon. The Seneca say it came from outer space. It breathes fire. It rides on fire. Her name is Gesyandieta.
Are you serious? I've never seen this on Ancient Aliens.
Look up. It's a very small Wikipedia page.
So I heard
Gesyandieta.
You are a big Ancient Aliens fan.
Every Friday I text Kyle when Ancient Aliens is on.
I used to be a hater of Ancient Aliens, but ever since the Navy came out that UFO's real, now I'm like, anything can be real. I don't know.
Obviously UFOs are real. I don't understand why they would fucking...
I did see a UFO when I was a kid, too.
Who hasn't? I had one. Plastic UFO.
Oh,
I had one.
I
didn't know if you sexually had a UFO.
I saw a real one. I think it was... I actually saw 2.
Her name was...
You saw 2?
Yes.
How many times were you probed?
No, so I was looking up in the night sky. I was like really young kid, and there were these 2 bright stars. Looked like ordinary stars enough, except they were very bright, and they were conjoined. They were like touching each other. You could still tell they were 2 distinct stars, but they're touching each other. And I'm just staring up there. My dad was looking at it too. And then all of a sudden we're looking at it. The 2 stars.
Did it make that noise?
No, but it made like the trails, like when you wave your hands, allegedly when you're on acid, and it like leaves your hand marks.
Never seen that.
Yeah, allegedly. I've
heard that's what happens. It kind of like left that in the sky for a second, but they just split apart from each other, going opposite directions at speed you can't even imagine.
Oh, so UFO propaganda aside, and I think a keeping it 1492 belief is that they do exist, and they are very hardcore American. So they come in here and they're like, I fucking love this country. They drink Coors. They don't fly in our airspace on the 4th of July. But
well, according to Ancient Aliens, we've reverse engineered the technology.
That would be like
in Independence Day.
Dude, we could get on fucking Ancient Aliens because believe me, there's some shit like the Nazca lines. Holy shit. I'm sure they bring that up all the time.
The Great Whites or the Nordics, 2 different alien races, not being racist. Those 2 races are more peaceful. What you got to watch out for is the reptilians and the Greys.
Talking about the Greys again. It's always the Greys with you.
Look, the Greys can no longer reach the dimension of heaven, so they need to interbreed with humans in order to ascend to heaven again.
I mean, the best thing about the show is they make really compelling arguments without giving you any actual evidence.
Early man. to create us.
Well, the good one last Friday was an special 2-hour episode, not just 1, 2, and it went into how we're actually aliens, like we're from alien DNA tens of thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
They went back like apes. They are alien DNA.
Right, they fucked apes, man.
Yes.
But,
well, so if you look at it that way, we're all aliens.
I mean, do you think they also killed? Here's a question, because like you think about like the ancient pyramids, and then like there's a lot of like the Easter Island heads and shit like that, like rocks coming from hundreds of miles away,
Like Stonehenge.
right? Like coming from one point, across the lake, like Easter Island, it was like fucking hundreds of miles away. They brought these stones and brought them over to Easter Island, and then they made these giant skulls or giant heads that they didn't.
How'd they get the stones over the water?
Dude, they didn't have the technology to fucking carve them. Like, and that's the thing. All right, Ancient Aliens conspiracy theory, did they fucking just kill off like the human race that was existent?
You see, that's where I think we have to be careful with the Ancient Alien stuff, is because I think there's just things that
don't smoke weed, Tom.
I think there's just things that ancient humans did that we just don't know how they did them yet, because they were smarter than us in different ways, and that knowledge has been lost.
Yeah, like I'm sure, like, because we can't actually explain to this day how the pyramids were built. There's not a credible actual explanation.
They had, because when you look at like ancient Greeks, ancient Egyptians, the technology wasn't all there, but like their mathematics.
But I'm just saying we don't know. We can't explain how they did it.
Isn't it in like Bulgaria right now? There was like an anthropologist who went over and said basically the hills you see that are covered in grass are actually underground pyramids. And so they started digging up, and they found it's fucking pyramids that are just underground. They had no idea. They're just like, oh, these are just giant grassy hills, and they're fucking pyramids.
In India, ancient India, there's this society where they still haven't figured out most of their shit. They haven't figured out what happened to the civilization. It's the Gupta dynasty. It's been too long since I taught global.
Love that cheese.
Over a year.
Because you're an English teacher.
I am an English teacher now. I hate it. But ancient India, we're talking like before Christ.
Ancient India aliens.
Allegedly, that guy Christ lived. I don't believe it.
Well, see, you just gotta go full in with it and say before Common Era.
Yeah, BCE. Thank you.
So, by the way, it's very weird that we're just like, years, it's gonna start again when Christ was born. We're just gonna do it.
Well, now it's before and after.
And then Columbus is there, like, with his sword, like, keeping it 1492. He's just like, hey, you're gonna start counting your years after our favorite person died, okay?
Is there a more selfish thing than to make people count time based on your life? Like, honestly.
Right. But what...
Did Jesus even say that? Like,
how pretentious can you be?
Is that part of the New Testament? Like,
they've influenced the whole world
now.
The whole fucking world, and there's people who don't believe in Jesus. Sorry, but I don't go by years, man. Like, I'm gonna start writing checks, be like, I'm not gonna put a date on that shit. I don't subscribe to the notion of Jesus.
Yeah, like China has had like a pretty continuous culture from like before Jesus. So like if they like, I'm sure I think they do have like their own calendar. So like China's like in the year like 5,000 something right now. But we're like, no, you're really like in 2000.
Well, could you imagine trying to change how most of the world uses it? Like, what if it suddenly wasn't 2018? What if it was suddenly the year like 60,018 since humans were created?
It would take so much more time to write out a check. Going back to my check,
who writes a check?
I don't even write a check anymore. You're right.
Imagine like using Roman numerals like at like the beginnings of old movies. It's like MC.
It's like it's like the fucking uproar. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna use the metric system, and Americans are like, fuck these. We don't want. We're Frenchmen, by the way. Don't want to use the fucking metric. It makes no sense.
So we're French and believe in aliens.
Oh, it's 20 degrees Celsius. No, it's fucking Fahrenheit, brah.
That's easy. It's 62 out. Sorry, 20, 40, 72.
The point I was going to make about India real quick.
Celsius goes by 2 degrees, and it starts at 32. So if 20 is easy, that's 40 plus 32.
Someone came up. I'm sorry.
Because Celsius is based on the freezing point. It freezes at 32. So 0 Celsius is the freezing.
Well, Tom, Americans don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah, okay? Explain to me Kelvin. It's negative 5,000 Kelvin right now.
Loved his friend Hobbes.
Whoa.
Continue, Kyle.
Just in case listeners are still wondering what I
or
was
if they're
talking
still
about
listening.
in India, they had fucking flushable toilets and indoor plumbing.
When?
In like 3,000 years ago.
They did?
Yeah.
I always think it's funny that people think like we're the first humans that have ever figured out like how to make water run.
Well, the Roman aqueducts are considered some of the greatest man-made.
Yeah, I think this would have been before the Romans. They had indoor plumbing, flushable toilets.
Like, there's the myth on Ancient Aliens and other shows on the History Channel
I gotta watch this.
That the pyramids were actually conductors for electricity.
They're Tesla coils, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So that ancient Egypt actually had
actually
electricity.
the X-Men movie, the last X-Men movie, was it Apocalypse or was
I don't watch that stuff.
I forgot.
Don't they all line up like in one fucking pretty much one line?
And the Great Period is actually
Great Period?
Great Pyramid. You weren't listening.
No,
Pyramid.
You said period.
The Great Period.
Is this like the
again from ancient
the elevator doors in The Shining opening up, the Great Period?
From
yes.
Well, they again on Ancient Aliens they did this thing where they showed the tip of the Great Pyramid.
Just the tip.
The Great Pyramid. And if you extrapolate that out,
let me put it in. But your pyramid's so big.
If you extrapolate that out circular,
extrapolate
lines up with all these other ancient historical sites. So the pyramid lines up with like Machu Picchu and all this other stuff. Because there's also a theory that it's old school like landing places for aliens. So it's like giant airports.
And then Alaska, and then Atlantis sunk. And did that break the connection?
Possibly. I don't think Atlantis ever existed.
I think it did.
I think there was
you watch that much Ancient Aliens and you don't think Atlantis existed?
Right.
No, that's where I draw. Dude, that's where I draw the line.
But those aliens driving around
another ancient civilization that sunk is Lemuria. I have to see if
I had to take some medication. This is the great itch.
One of my favorite bands is Lemuria. They're from Buffalo. They're playing in Buffalo November 3rd.
Why don't you marry them?
There's still tickets.
Kyle, we don't plug bands unless they pay us, okay?
Yeah.
And we are the poorest podcast. This
is a struggling band.
We are a struggling band.
Yeah, we're a struggling
We don't have cool t-shirts or stickers yet.
No, we don't.
Hey, speaking of it, the logo change,
haven't received any feedback yet.
I was getting a lot of activity. Like, I was like, oh, you have 3 new views. Unique views. That's cool.
Yeah, you guys need to share their podcast more. We need more organic growth.
I'm not on Facebook. Right.
Okay, you can share it elsewhere.
I guess I'll share it.
Put it on rid of Facebook.
I have it still. I just haven't been on it.
Dude, you can put it on your MySpace. You can put it on your Friendster. You can put it on your LinkedIn.
I'll put it on my Google Plus.
Put it on your Google Plus.
Put it on your AIM profile.
I'll put it on my WeWe.
Yeah, make it a sweet away message. Go into pod, BBL. Be back later.
Oh yeah. I had to think about
BBL.
I don't know what your dirty mind's thinking that means.
So, Tom, I'm fucking freezing in this goddamn basement.
Yeah, this is the last...
It's almost like it's been getting progressively colder as the sun's been going down.
During the summer, it's great because it's a little like...
It's colder than the rest of the house. It's sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to be the last podcast from the dungeon until the sun comes back in March.
So we got to boot everyone out.
Yeah, I mean, also means no more weird yelling in the middle of the podcast.
Maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing.
I think it's a good thing. They have only occasionally yelled or laughed at the appropriate moments. So,
go laugh track.
Yeah, I think this is it because it's about 35 degrees in this room. If you
sorry.
guys are cool ending it, I think it's a good time to end it unless we want to keep going. If not, I'll do a little outro.
6:42. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been fun. Hey, before we go, let me plug my new book. I've been writing this book. No, okay, I'm sorry.
Josh.
I don't write.
Josh
don't
does
read.
the ABCs. He got halfway through B and quit.
So, yeah. You ever? Nah. Okay.
Are we good? All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening to episode 44. We'll be back for episode 45 next week. Upstairs, not freezing our bodies off, and I think Kyle's going to take us out with a musical interpretation of music.
It's my girl Elsa.
China, 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 China.